Welcome back to another very special episode of the Man to Man Pod. I'm yours truly, Darius Butler, one half of the pod. Got my co-host, Antoine Bethea.
Yo.
We got a very special guest with us today, co-host of The Herd, host of the Joy Taylor Show on Fox Sports Radio, and CEO, founder of the Joy Taylor Foundation as well. Joy Taylor, what's up?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
How's free agency treating you so far in your work day?
It's been crazy, right? It's been a wild couple of weeks. I love it. I mean, I'm a big anarchy person. The more going on, the better. I mean, we're in the content business, so I want stuff to be interesting. I want people to be moving and shaking. Like that's good for us. I think it's good for fans too. I know people get a little upset sometimes with the stars who, force their way out. But at the end of the day, it makes it more interesting for fans. I think it puts more pressure on organizations not to make big mistakes or treat people badly. So I like it. It's been great. And it's been a wild month.
Yes. So we speaking on free agency. Any surprise moves so far? Any moves that, made you raise your eyebrows or say like, nah, I wouldn't have done that, or yeah, I like that move?
I mean, I think the Amari Cooper thing in Dallas is really interesting. Dak isn't really the same guy without Amari Cooper, so I thought that was a big loss. I think Dallas has been kind of picked apart in free agency. I was out on Dallas after this season anyway, regardless. I'm not a Dallas I don't hate the Cowboys, but I'm not a Dallas fan. And, I can't keep falling into that trap where I think that they're gonna win or do something. They don't. They won three playoff games in 25 years.
They had me last year. They had me going last year. I'm not gonna lie. Dan Quinn came in to flip the script on that defense. Dak was back healthy. He started the season lights out. And on paper, they just looked great. Michael Parsons, obviously, was a home run out of the park, but Mike McCarthy, some issues down the stretch. Clock management ended up killing them. And now they did what the Cowboys do every year. So, yeah, I won't say I'm out on them because they are still in the NFC East. So they are still going to go to the playoffs and have a chance. But I won't give completely up on them yet. But, I mean, it's been so long since they've been really, contenders in real life outside of, every channel you turn on that tries to make them one.
It's been decades.
If
we're keeping it real, it's just they're America's team. They're always interesting. They're always fun. They always got something going on. But the conclusion I've come to with the Cowboys is just all smoke and mirrors. It's just all brand. I love Dak Prescott. I love Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I thought their defense was incredible this year. They have stars everywhere, but somehow they managed to trick it off every single time. And I think the problem with the Cowboys, because I know Cowboys fans get all sensitive and stuff. My mom's a Cowboys fan, so I try to not bother her.
We all got people that are close to us that are lifelong Cowboys. No matter where you're from, they've done a great job of that. I tell you that.
No, they are the one thing the Cowboys have that you cannot take away from them. They are the biggest brand in sports in the whole world. Not an opinion. Yeah. They have the biggest, most profitable brand. All the Euro leagues, soccer clubs, baseball, Yankees, whatever. Nobody's bigger than the Cowboys, period. Part of that is because you either hate the Cowboys or you love the Cowboys. There's very, very few people who are indifferent about the Cowboys. So they're fun to talk about because people have strong opinions about it either way. I think that their free agency has really not gone very well. And the way that the season ended, I don't feel like they're going to be the same next year. Teams are different year to year because of free agency, because of trades, because of drafts, because of injuries. But the Cowboys, that division isn't going to be the same. I don't really like Wentz that much, but he's.
I was about to say, you think anybody's really closed that gap though? Commanders, they got Wentz.
Philadelphia had a nice season. They could take a step up this year.
They surprised everybody. Surprised me. Yeah.
Wentz is much better than Taylor Heineke, and I don't like Wentz. I have a lot of questions about him, but he's better than Taylor Heineke. They're going to be better They're going to be better.
I think Wentz is going to surprise a lot of people out there in Washington.
I'm not a Wentz fan. I've never been a Wentz fan, though. No, I was always a Dak guy.
It's hard to be a Wentz fan at this point.
Yeah,
and I've ridden that through the ups and downs the whole way. Wentz is now on his third team. We have 2 uncomfortable exits where we've heard locker room and coach issues. One time, okay, maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe somebody had a grudge, whatever. 2 times, all right, come on, Doug. Yeah. Like, everywhere you leave, it's a problem. You're on your third team, right?
Yeah.
He's just, we know what he is at this point. He's a highly productive player that is reckless. And he is, for whatever reason, chosen to either A, not be coached out of that, or adjust his game. So, I mean, I still think he's very talented, but I think it's exaggerated, the success that Wentz has had, because he had that MVP year.
That's all it takes.
He did not win the MVP.
That's all it takes.
He did not win the MVP.
This is the thing about the league. It's hard for people to forget, especially when guys get drafted as high as he did. When you go number 2 overall and you do have that almost MVP, like you can ride that for so long. And a guy like on the flip side of that, a guy like J.C. Jackson, who just signed, 5 for 82. If he was a top 5 pick like Jalen Ramsey was, he would be getting paid $25 million a year right now. So it's crazy. People really can't forget that draft positioning for some reason. So he's been riding that, but he is reckless, and that's definitely something you can't have at the quarterback position. But before we get to you, we'll talk a little bit more about these quarterbacks. Guy that's not as reckless, takes care of the ball, won back-to-back MVPs. Obviously, in the media, some people hate him, some people love him, some people in the middle on him. Aaron Rodgers, he decided to stay in Green Bay, signed a huge deal. I was on your show, actually, before it actually happened. You were convinced he was leaving. He was out of there. Hey, Joy, chill. He's not going nowhere, Joy. You look around that division, he stayed where he stayed. Devontae Adams, he's got franchise. He said he's not playing under it. Interested to see how that plays out. But how do you think it goes with Aaron Rodgers, and were you really surprised that he ended up staying in Green Bay?
The longer that the free agency, just like his decision dragged out, the more I was convinced he was staying and they were just working out a deal, because he's really holding the whole league in this holding pattern. Like, nobody could make any moves. He was the first domino that had to fall, and then it ended up being Russell Wilson being the first move that was made. But I think that Denver kind of knew that Green Bay was working out a deal with him. I was convinced at the beginning of the season he was out of there. Then the way that the season ended, I was even more convinced that he was leaving. But the longer that it took for him to announce his decision, the more I was like, nah, he's staying. They're just working out a deal. Mm-hmm. I don't blame anybody for taking more money. We all want more money. And this is what, for me, I can separate the two things. You're a professional athlete. That means that you work as an athlete for a living. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to get paid. Like, everyone's trying to get paid. That's what you do. So I'm never mad at athletes for taking more money. But I do think at the quarterback position, and especially once you get into the legacy years of your career, it tells me different things about what you're trying to accomplish. So 2 things can be true. I can be totally cool with you taking all the money, but I can also not think that you're a Super Bowl team anymore, which I don't. Mm-hmm. So he's had 1 Super Bowl in his career, which is, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer, going to go down as a legend, all those things. But he's not really in the Super Bowl winning business. Like, he's not. When you take up 13.4% of the cap, he
got a friendlier cap hit, though.
No, he did change. He adjusted all of it. But here's the thing. Here's a statistic that I always bring up, because I think it's very telling. And I'm not a big stats person, but I think when you have years and years and years of something that's consistent, you have to consider it. Since 2011, if your cap hit at the quarterback position is 12.4% or higher, you don't win a Super Bowl. That's a lot of time. The top 2 biggest hits were Tom Brady in 2020, and that was 12.3%. And then Tom Brady 3 or 4 years before that, and I think it was 12%. And both of those are Tom
What was Stafford's last year?
Stafford's wasn't that high.
Okay.
So basically, if you're over that, you don't win a Super Bowl. So can you? Sure, those trends can be broken. But what it tells you is if your quarterback is too expensive, you can't afford to have the talent around you that you need to win a Super Bowl. Not get to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. So beyond that, we've seen enough consistent results from Aaron Rodgers that he does take care of the ball. He is incredibly talented. I thought he had an MVP season. I thought he deserved the MVP. But he ain't a postseason quarterback.
He showed a smallness in postseason game, no doubt about that.
He ain't a postseason quarterback.
Yeah.
He is a great regular season quarterback, which there's value in that. We've seen guys who have had incredible careers at being excellent regular season quarterbacks. He has one Super Bowl, so nobody can say he's not a champion. But you had the number 1 seed in the NFC, in a tough NFC. It's not what it is now. A tough NFC, number 1 seed, home field advantage against Jimmy Garoppolo and a wild card team.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to say it because everyone's got to be real precious with Aaron.
I mean, I've said it multiple times.
That was a disaster. I don't care about Tennessee. I don't never trust Tennessee. Okay. But when you are a back-to-back league MVP, you kicked up all the dust you kicked up all season long, which I'm cool with. Thank you for the content. We had something to talk about every day. But you can't do all that and then lose in your first playoff game at home as the number 1 seed. If it was anyone other than Aaron Rodgers, that would be all we could talk about.
Yeah, that be at that boy head, whoever it was.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I was on him.
That's a mark on your legacy. You have to consider that.
No question. I remember watching that game. I turned that game off. I thought it was a wrap for San Fran.
I don't know why you thought that. Come on, man. Jimmy G over there, man.
Man, you cut it out.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Jimmy G over there, find a way to win. Hopefully we find a way to get him in Indy. You looking at this landscape, that's our best option right now. But before we move on, another quarterback that moved the same day Aaron Rodgers signed, Russell Wilson went out to the AFC West, which is an all-out arms race at the quarterback position. And now on defense, it's looking like the Raiders just signed Chandler Jones to a nice deal. Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson went over to the Chargers. Randy Gregory went up to Denver. So everybody's getting pass rushers and obviously passers. How do you like that move for Russ in the Broncos, man? You think that makes him a legit contender, and where do they fall in that AFC West hierarchy right now?
I definitely think it makes them a contender. I mean, we've been looking at Denver for a couple of years now. Like, they really just need a quarterback. I mean, that's why they moved Elway, I think, out of that role, or Elway moved out of that role, because obviously, his legacy is cemented, but they've been having some turnover at the quarterback position. It's hard to do. Everybody wants a quarterback, obviously. I think it was a great move for Russ. I was shocked by it, to be honest with you, because I don't understand how Seattle makes that move unless Russ says he's not playing there no more. Yeah. I just don't know how you do it. If I have a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime in my building, I'm not moving him unless he comes in the room and bangs on the table and says, I'm not playing here no more. It's not even a question. It's a non-starter. Next, what's the other problems we have? Because that's the hardest thing to get. That's the hardest thing to do. So I was really surprised.
Especially your 70-year-old head coach. Probably not trying to hang around for a rebuild. Yeah, I was surprised by that. I mean,
Russ has always been, up until last year, Russ has always been go Hawks.
The perfect soldier.
Right.
Company guy.
Yeah, no, I just always thought it was some of that was BS though. Like
some of what?
That Russ, company guy. I just thought some of that was.
I mean, was it BS. Always is.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it always is, because everything isn't always perfect, so we know that. But to publicly, he was the best, along with like a Tom Brady, at just being like, nope, it's on me. Just pour water on the fire. Let's move on. Like he was the anti-drama guy for the long.
When he put that list out, them 4 teams.
Up until last year, he was. Yeah. So that's why there was definitely some smoke on that fire. But I think it makes Denver instant contenders. I mean, they've got weapons. They've got a great roster. We'll see about the coach. It is a new situation, new coach. They're going to have a new owner. But Denver's a great organization, great fan base. They're a legendary franchise and a championship-winning franchise as well. It's one thing if you're going to a place that's never won.
Yeah,
they've had success, so they have standards and they know how to win. regardless of who's in the building. So I think it's a great move. The AFC West is crazy.
Loaded. I finally got
but everyone's freaking out about that and the division. I mean, he was just in a tough division, so it's not like he doesn't have experience having to play.
It's different over here, Joy.
So
it's different. We got two at the top.
Right. AFC West. We talking quarterbacks. Rank your quarterbacks in the AFC West.
Oh shit.
All right. So I gotta go Mahomes.
All right.
I'm gonna go Mahomes.
Fair.
And I'm gonna go Russ. I'm gonna go Russ and then Justin Herbert and then Derek Carr. And I like Derek Carr. So I'm really splitting hairs with Justin Herbert and Derek Carr. Now I'll tell you what it is about Justin Herbert. I know everybody gets crazy about Justin Herbert.
Hold on now Russ is disrespectful enough at this point.
Not everybody, but now let her explain herself, D. But hold on now.
Russ is disrespectful enough at this point to put him at 2, but splitting hairs with Derek Carr?
I love Justin Herbert. I'm still sick. Justin Herbert isn't in Miami. Okay?
Yeah, you and me both.
I've been on Justin Herbert. I think he's super talented. He's really smart. He's a franchise guy. He's somebody you could build around for the next 15 years. I think he's going to win. He's definitely going to win a Super Bowl eventually. And I think he's going to be great and have an amazing career. But here's the problem. You have to, at some point, be evaluated by the winning that you provide. I know people don't like to call the wins and losses a quarterback stat, right? But it is the most important position, right? There's a reason we always talk about quarterbacks. There's a reason we're not ranking rosters right now or ranking quarterbacks, because that's how important it is. So you can have all the talent in the world. If it's not translating to winning at some point, I got to take that into consideration. I do, because if we're going to talk about it as much as we do, if we're going to levy the importance that we put on it as a position, if we're going to pay what it pays, if we're going to go through all the drama whenever they move, then you got to also provide some winning. And here's why I put Justin Herbert where I put him, because he is wildly talented. We know that. No
third
question.
In the AFC West is where Joy put him.
He's third. Patrick Mahomes is 1. Period. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is 1. I don't care what all these people talking about. No, Patrick Mahomes.
1A. He 1A.
He's 1. Russ is 2. He has a Super Bowl. He was a franchise quarterback for 10 years. He's still in his prime. He has produced winning.
He's a winner. No doubt about it.
Okay. Justin Herbert came into the league in the same draft as who?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow just played in a Super Bowl with Cincinnati.
Don't bring up Joe Burrow with AB here.
And the Chargers roster. Whose would you take?
Oh no, Joy.
No, come on, D-Bud. You're a football guy, man.
Look, you look at those rosters. Chargers had the better offensive line. Everywhere else, the receiver weapons. Who you going, Chargers or Bengals? I'll probably go with the Bengals if we keep it in a buck.
Chargers got some. Chargers got some dogs now.
You got
dogs, absolute dogs. But 1 through 3, and then you got the tight end as well. Bengals, I think, had the better receiving options.
The Bengals just played in the Super Bowl, so I'll give them the nod on the roster. But it's not like you would look at the Chargers roster and be like, "Nah, look what he's playing with." So I'm saying
terrible run defense, terrible special teams. Over aggressive head coach, rookie head coach at that.
You like that though, the over aggressiveness though, D-Butt. You praise them all year.
I do, but a part of that is because you know this is AB. Joy, you know this as well. If you got a defense that I know can't stop the run, I got a special teams unit that I damn sure don't want to put on the field. Should I go? This is the best player. He probably feels like that's the best player in the league as a coach. If you see the guy every day in practice, every day on Sundays, you see his percentage. We all watched the Raiders-Chargers game when they went for it on 4th down 10 times. It seemed like he got 8 or 9 of them. So come on, man. I do like the aggressiveness, but he's a rookie. You got to scale it back at times.
Yeah.
So he'll learn, and I think they'll get better and they'll take those steps. Russ is definitely a winner. Derek Carr, I couldn't label him as a winner. He still hasn't had a playoff victory. I think.
No, but Derek Carr, and I put Derek Carr under Justin Herbert because Justin Herbert is more talented than Derek Carr. But what Derek Carr did this year, to me, with all the dysfunction and everything that happened with the Raiders, you got to give him credit for that.
Fair.
So when you're talking about leadership, you have to, like when I'm talking about a quarterback, you got to evaluate everything. And I know people don't like to give wins and losses as a quarterback stat. I feel you. But at some point, you got to win games. And at some point, you got to win in the postseason. Justin Herbert hasn't been to the postseason yet. Joe Burrow just played in a Super Bowl in Cincinnati. So it ain't like he didn't have anything to overcome. So I'm not saying I would take Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert right now, of course. But I'm saying if we're ranking people, it's Mahomes. But Russell Wilson is above Justin Herbert right now. He is. It's not. Justin Herbert ain't talented. It's close.
We know where I stand on this, but we shall see. Time will tell. And we gonna talk about this again. Either the Herd, Joy Taylor show, back in a minute. We gonna talk about this again. Trust me. But let's move on. Sports, Joy. Get to you. Obviously, you've been around sports your whole life. Older brother, Jason Taylor, Hall of Famer, now on the staff at the U. I'm super excited about it. But let's talk about you. You played a bunch of sports, I know, in high school, but where, I guess, did your sports journey start in your life?
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh. So I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, if you know anybody from Pittsburgh, they're a sports fan in some capacity. At the very least, they watch the Steelers. So that's just how I grew up.
Great sports town.
Yeah, being around not just, men, but just people. Like everybody watches sports. I always tell the story that my grandmother and my aunts lived together like the Golden Girls. And you were at their house at any point, if any game came on, whatever we're watching, cartoons, whatever else is on is getting turned off and the game is being put on. Like, and if the Steelers lose, it's a bad day. It's a bad week. Everybody's complaining. Everybody's bitching. So,
and I know they saw a bunch of championships and they saw
winning pedigree.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the lifestyle there, it's a sports town and that's what everybody does is, drink and, eat a
Is anybody else good besides the Steelers in Pittsburgh? Like I never hear about the Pirates.
Penguins have won a lot.
Penguins.
And the Pirates, the Pirates have been good in a while. But we had our days. They had their moments, and obviously back in the day were legendary. But it's just a sports town. So in college as well, Penn State, Pitt, and high school sports especially high school football is huge in Western Pennsylvania. So it's just a sports place. And so I just grew up around sports, and then I played sports growing up. I played basketball, ran track, played volleyball and soccer, and I ran track my freshman year of college. And then I kind of realized, I'm probably not.
What was your favorite out of all of them? What was your favorite sport?
What was your favorite sport?
I mean, I would say track. I played basketball and ran track the longest, but I ran track in college, so I would say that it's because I was the best at that.
Okay. You were a sprinter?
Sprinter, yeah. I ain't running no long distance.
What was your So what were your times? 100, 200?
Oh no, I don't remember. I hate the 200, first of all.
What were your events? I need to know the events you ran.
I never had the thighs for the 200. You gotta have those track thighs. I was in high school. I could never run the 200. I hated that. I did the 4x1, the 4x4, 400. I love the relays. I played a lot of team sports, and relay was always fun to me because it was, we're racing, we're going up against everybody else, but it's still a team event. So did not love the 400. That was the worst. Always try to duck out because, the 4x1 are run at the end of the meet too. So if you weren't originally signed up, anyone who, runs track knows that you try and sneak out or hide because coach would always try and put you in the event at the last minute.
Yep.
Worse. But I loved playing sports. And I got to college, I realized I wasn't going to the Olympics. And listen, being a college athlete is a lot. It's a huge commitment. And I just realized, I was like, you know what, this is probably not for me. I'm not going to study anything particular that has to do with this that would benefit me, like, being a trainer or wanting to be a coach or something. So I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of my college experience, which I did. Mm-hmm. And it was the right decision. But I love being able to have the experience of getting recruited and, going on recruitment trips and seeing different schools and going through.
I was about to ask you, how was that process for what schools did it come down to?
It was between, I narrowed it down to, I got recruited for soccer too, but I was only D2. So I wasn't going to play soccer, but it came down to Kent State and IUP, which is where I ended up going. But Kent State, it was Ohio. I'd spent a lot of time in Ohio. Jason, growing up in Pittsburgh.
How would Jason feel? Isn't that a rivalry, Kent State and Akron? My little brother went to Akron. They Hated Kent State.
Yeah, they don't like Kent State. But I spent a lot of time in Akron. So it was a good experience. I think it helps me now a lot in my career, being able to talk about college sports, like knowing what the process of being recruited is, knowing what, the NCAA rules used to be for college athletes, how demanding it is and all of that. So those experiences, I think, help me now being a broadcaster, and I can speak to them from a personal space, not just my family.
All right, so college, so what did you end up majoring? Did you go into journalism, sports journalism, or how was that path? No,
my first major was psychology, because I thought that I wanted to be a psychologist in a So I saw Gothica with Halle Berry. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor in an asylum. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
I know.
I started out, that was actually my either first or second major. It was poli-sci psychology, and I ended up on sociology. So
sociology was my minor.
Yeah, I loved it. It's very interesting. I took some classes my first semester, and I went to my professor after the semester was over, and I was like, just be honest with me, how long am I going to have to be in school if I want to have my own practice or, be a doctor? And he was like, oh, probably 12 years. I was like, what? That's a long time. I was like, nah, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Let me just talk shit about sports instead. So I switched to broadcasting, and it was obviously the right move. But Halle Berry, Gothica.
That's what got you to think you was gonna be a shrink.
Great movie though.
Halle Berry was my hero, and it was an interesting movie. I was like, maybe I'll check out. I can't even imagine going to an asylum every day. That's a lot.
What movie was that with Leo DiCaprio? That Shutter Island?
Where he's I've never seen Shutter Island.
Have you seen that movie?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was good ass movie. All right, so how was that pivot? What was that pivot like? How did you get your start getting into the sports media space, and how was it starting also coming after a brother like Jason, who was household name, like I said, Hall of Famer. Obviously I grew up in South Florida Dolphins fans. He was one of my favorite players. So getting into the business, I'm sure people would look at you as Jason's little sister first, and now you're Joy Taylor. You got your own shit. So how did that start though in the beginning? Well,
I started in the business at Barry University in Miami.
Okay.
That's where I graduated from and finished school. And when I transferred there, I was in a media course, a undergrad media course, and someone from the radio station at the school came to speak to the class and was like, "We need hosts for the student radio station. So if you come by, sign up for a shift, and you can host your own show." And I was kind of surprised, what? Why do you need people to sign up? This is crazy. This is a good opportunity. Yeah. Everyone should be down there trying to, get experience. So anyway, I went down and signed up, and I ended up being a manager at the station before I graduated. But that's where I really started, was at WBRY at the school. And that was just, nobody's listening. It's 15 people or whatever, if you happen to get it on your AM station while you're driving through Miami shores. But, for me, it was yeah, exactly. It's a live opportunity. And as you guys know, the more reps you get, the better you get. You get your mistakes out while you don't have a bigger audience. And that's really where I fell in love with radio, because I always liked the idea of being able to be a personality. And I always try to stay a little bit ahead of the trends in our business, which is always changing, and pay attention to what people are doing and where the business is going. And what I noticed in college was there weren't as many news shows anymore where it was just getting the information. There were more and more opinion shows popping up. First Take, His and Hers, PTI. Those shows were the shows that were really doing well. And similarly, in news, it was all opinion about the news. So I had never really wanted to be a reporter, but I was like, that's the lane I want to be in. Is I want to be a personality. I want to give my opinion about the news.
Yeah, I want to talk my shit.
Yeah, I don't want to have to find the news. I don't want to have to be the source. I want to react to the source, to the story. So I just started shaping my career in that way while I was still in school, because not only I knew that's what I wanted to do, but also I felt like that was the way that the business was going. And, here we are. That's what most of the business is. I mean, it's so many different ways to get stories now, and athletes now have the platforms to just put their own story out there. It's really changed a lot. So I've also never really wanted to be a reporter. The locker room, I know that's y'all thing, but I'm not trying to be up in the locker room trying to source things out. Like, people who do that I have such respect for, because it's really a grind. Like, you really have to have certain kind of relationships, and it's a completely different way of going on about the business. I have sources, but I'm more of a I know this, so that's how I'm going to form my opinion, right. But I'm not really interested in breaking stories. So I started there, and then I started interning at WQAM in Miami, which is a sports radio station there, with Joe Rose, who's a former Miami Dolphin player. So I did that in college, and then I interned for DJ Laz, who was a morning show host, legendary DJ in Miami.
What was that? Power 96?
Power 96.
Power 96. Okay, yeah.
So I ended up just kind of working as the morning show producer there, and got probably the most influential experience for the start of my career, because I was doing everything. I was booking guests. I was setting up events. I was doing the prep for the show. I was making sure everyone was on their schedule. I was putting stuff up on social media. I was running the show as an intern, and they just trusted me with that responsibility. But it was a great experience for me, because now I do so much of that still today, but also for my own show and for my podcast. When I was doing my podcast, like, you have to know how to put the structure of a show together. Yeah. And so it really taught me a lot about just hands-on how to do a show. And so after that, I kind of graduated in a weird time, similar to what a lot of students dealt with COVID over the past 2 years, because when I graduated, there was a hiring freeze around the whole business, because what is now iHeart was Clear Channel. And they owned the most amount of radio stations around the country, and they fired half of their workforce.
Damn, was this around the recession, that 2008 collapse?
2009.
Okay, that's the same year I got drafted. And a lot of the deals that a lot of the guys were getting every year before, hey man, I'm getting a car deal, a phone deal, all that shit was put on hold after that recession. So yeah, we graduated around the same time.
Yeah, so it really affected the business. So the job that I was supposed to have evaporated, and I was kind of lost for a little bit. It took me some time to really get my bearings back in the business. But after a while, I ended up getting a job at QAM, where I had interned originally, because the people who I had interned for were still working there. And I did a great job of my internship, which was, what you should do. Yeah. And I started as a part-time producer. I think I was making like $8.50 an hour for the Sid Rosenberg show in the afternoons, like answering phones and getting coffee and copies. What assistant producers or part-time producers do, running the board occasionally. But I always made sure everyone I worked for always knew I wanted to be on air, and that was my goal. So whenever Sid could, he would bring me on air, and we'd do a little thing, and I'd save all that for my reel, and then do weekend shifts and write about high school sports and cover youth sports, and freelance with whatever was going on, covering entertainment stuff, and bartending on South Beach and at Stage in Miami and Design District.
I know that was man. No telling what you saw, man. Those days, boy. Ooh,
yeah, memories, but that's what I had to do. Like, Miami's an expensive place to live, and obviously, I was very blessed to be able to get a job in a big market, a top 20 market, out of school. Not right out of school, but to get that opportunity. And yeah, they don't tell you you're not going to make any money when you start in this, like no money when you start in this business. Yeah. And, most businesses don't pay well right away, but this is a tough business to break into, and you're probably gonna have to work multiple jobs. And even when you get to a certain point, I still have multiple jobs. I don't have one job. Yeah. And that's something that most people in the business do, because it is a very volatile, crazy business. But that was how I started. And then worked up as a producer to a full-time producer, executive producer, and then eventually got the opportunity to host the morning show with Zaslow in Miami, which we did for a couple years. And that was really when I really began to feel comfortable as a personality, and, be able to lean into my voice having that show, because one, it's radio, so it's 4 hours long.
Yep.
So you got to talk.
Mhm.
And we just had we had a good
4 hours, and then y'all gotta like damn near reset every 15 minutes.
Yeah, and when you're doing local, it's different because you really got to talk about. You can't just skip out on hockey or if it's a Wednesday my Marlins game. Like you got to get into it because that's the fan base, So it was great experience. It really launched my career, and after that show, that's when I got the opportunity to come to FS1. So that's kind of an abbreviated version of it with lots of this all the way through. But it was at some point, like being Jason's sister, it was never a negative thing because Jason, as you said, has an incredible reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be people that assume that you're only there because of that, and there's people that still say like, "Oh, like Jason got you your job." Like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like, if that's what you think, that's what you think. I can't get bothered by that anymore. But it's been a crazy experience, a long journey, but it's an amazing business to be in. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And it takes a long time. Like it takes levels. The one thing I'll say though is I really feel we're always impatient about where we are, in our career. We're like, I should be here, I should be doing this, or I should have this show or this role or whatever. And like when I really look back on it, I've always been impatient, but every step and every job that I had prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And like if you take the time to value where you are and like soak up those experiences, when you do get the opportunity, you'll be ready for it. And it's very cliche, but like I didn't know
that's real though.
That being recruited for track was going to be able to help me talk about confidently, NIL and why that stuff's important, because I lived that and I took from that experience. And I didn't know that being a part-time producer was going to be able to help me produce my Saturday radio show, which I do now, and be able to do everything myself, because I did that making $8 an hour. And you sit there like, damn, this is what I'm doing. But like, yes, this is what you're doing, because this is what you're qualified to do right now.
Like, and whatever role that is, whatever role you got to be fully invested, bought in. That, like you said, that's life in general. That's sports, that's teams. Sometimes you might be that guy who's you just gonna be a gunner, or you're gonna be a hold up guy, and then you get your opportunity. Somebody get hurt, you get a couple starts under your belt, and never come off the field again. So that's how it is, man. Take full advantage of every opportunity.
I got a question for you.
And treat people good while you're there too, because you never know.
That's a fact. Yeah.
You never know who's going to be in charge of the next place, or who you're going to be working with, or whatever. And sometimes it's best just keep that little opinion you got to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Vent to the homie.
Yep. Facts.
Your relationships is real. But question for you though, like being a woman in the space, right? And you talked about it earlier, just as far as like, just where the platform is now, where it's a lot of opinions, right? You can give your opinions, and I follow you on Twitter. I know sometimes, you got some assholes on there, men that when it comes to sports don't really value the opinion of a woman, right? But just being a woman in this space, like just talk about some of those things that you have to overcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started in the business, it was a really different landscape than it is now. I didn't really have anybody. I didn't have an OG. I didn't have anybody telling me what to do, or who I should be talking to, or how it works, or what I should avoid, or any of that. And there just really weren't a lot of women in the space. Like there were no women in the radio space in South Florida when I started down there. Like there would be a couple, maybe interns or something, but there's nobody on air. So, a lot of it I had to learn myself. And as it's changed, as it's grown, and you are seeing more and more women in different spaces, which is a good thing. We got a long way to go, but the landscape is definitely changing, and I think that's a good thing. I also think that the more that it changes and the more that you see women in the space, the more it becomes less of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
and it's less of it's a woman being hired for this, or, it's the first woman to call this game, or, whatever, be this coach, or all those things. And like I said, there's still a lot of those firsts to happen, but you're always going to have misogynists and, people who just they're used to what they're used to, and they're,
right.
Knuckle draggers, and there's nothing you could do about those. And there's those people that are on the far end of it. And generally people who are all the way on the end of anything are not really, you can't really have a conversation with them, because they're just set in their ways. They've made their decision about what they're going to think and what they're going to do. It's more about the people in the middle that I'm trying to move. Like, and that's really, when you're a woman in this space, you have to be perfect all the time. Like, you can't make any mistakes. You can't say somebody was traded when they were really cut, or, you can't misquote someone's name. You have to be perfect all the time. Yeah. That, I think, is the fundamental difference between men in the business and women in the business, is that you just have no space for mistakes. And because it's sports fans, people are passionate, and they're going to let you know that you messed up that pitcher's name or whatever it is. And, we talk for a long time. We talk for 3 hours a day. I'm probably going to say somebody's name wrong, or, get a stat wrong, or whatever. But you just have to be so much better in every space to get into that space as a woman. And I think that is not that I think the expectations should be lower, but I think that's the difference, that one of the main differences that women face that men don't in this space, is that you can't just be average. Like, you got to be great. And then some more, like, then you got to always be on time, and then you can never make any mistakes on air, and then you can never, take too much time off. Like, there's always a different standard for women than there is for men in the business. As far as like talking about sports, that's more of the space where I think we've come a long way. Like, there used to be the whole like she never played thing, right? Like, but so Colin Cowherd didn't play.
Yeah, I was about to say most men on TV didn't play either.
Yeah, there's a long list of men who did not play these sports that they talk about every day, and that's not what you're greeting them with. So if that's what you want to start with, like, that's why my opinion is invalid. Cool. Well, I don't want to hear you talk, whoever this person is, I don't want to hear you talk about NBA then. Whatever. If that's your standard for it, we got a long list of things you can't talk about. So if that's the starter for it, which it's generally not, because it's so easy to be like, to knock that off. It's just the subtle stuff. It's the subtle sexism and misogyny that I hope will start to change more. Because the ones on the end, like, I ain't worried about them.
Now, I know you had to deal with that, like you said, being one of the early women in the game, like you said, one of the very few down here on radio, or just in general now on TV every day. I see on your Twitter, you always got to deal with the assholes, the what they call trolls. I got to deal with them, maybe. Everybody got to deal with them. But some people take the high road a lot more often than Joy. When did that change for you? Or was that always just how you moved, I guess, in the social media space? Because one part of it is, all right, when you do go back at them, however you go back at it just kind of empowers them in a sense, because most of these guys, they can't wait for a response from Joy.
Right.
Like, that's the highlight day. They're going to show it to every person that they troll with. Like, hey, I got a response. So what's the balance for you? It has that kind of been how you always moved to the space.
Well, I wasn't always on TV. So, let me just stop there. But like, I'm really with the shits. Like, if you want to go, we can go. Ain't nothing but air and opportunity between us if you really got that life, but they're not. So to me, the troll thing actually started when I was in Miami. Because in radio, when I was doing radio, I don't know if they still do it, but we used to have the text line, right? Like, you could text into the station. Yeah. And sometimes we do it for contests, but they would really want us to use it during the show to like get fan comments. So our PD would always be like, oh, like, read the text line, make sure you're integrating the text line. And I would tell them, I'm not reading this. I'm trying to do the show. There's nothing but bullshit on here. Just people talking shit all day. Occasionally there'll be somebody with a thought, but this is why I'm not reading all this like negative feedback all day. So I would give it to the producers and be like, hey, just pick one, conscious comments on here and we'll read it. But if there are none, there are none. So I kind of already had a predisposition to the troll community that really exists in its luster as it does now as a young broadcaster. So I sort of had a tougher skin for it that I developed early, which is a good thing now because, as you mentioned, everybody has trolls now. Mm-hmm. Now, women get it worse than men.
Way worse.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Black women get it worse than everybody. Mm-hmm. But I just had a different disposition to it. But also, I have the mentality that, like, these people would never say this to my face.
To your face.
Never.
Facts.
Never. There's nothing you could ever tell me to make me believe that you will walk up to me in person on the streets of Los Angeles and tell me I'm a fat bitch. There's nothing you could tell me to convince me that you would do that. I know you wouldn't do it.
1,000% correct. Yeah.
There's no chance, zero. So I can't really take these people seriously. Like, you're not really tough and you don't really mean what you're saying because you would never say it to my face. So I also don't have feelings. Like, so I'm like, if I don't respect your opinion, like if I wouldn't ask you for advice, why would I respect your criticism?
Yeah.
So, and that could apply to a lot of people, but especially an anonymous person on the internet. Like, I'm not getting in my feelings about that. I got stuff to do today, a lot of stuff to do. And that is just not on the list. Now, everybody, as you mentioned, Darius, everybody doesn't take the road that I take. And some people do get upset about what's said about them. And I would say this, and this is what I tell people, especially young people in the business, like about how to deal with it. One, despite the fact that I do sacrifice a troll every now and then, I'm not reading my mentions all day. I'm actually living my life and doing stuff. So occasionally I'll get on there, light somebody up, move on with my day. But there'll be whole weeks where I don't even get in the mentions. Like, I'm not even doing that. I'm just busy. So I would say balance, how much, because I don't think humans are supposed to get as much feedback. We're not meant to get as much feedback as we get. Positive or negative. It's not normal to have this.
Especially when you live on air for 3 hours, 5 days out of
It's not normal. But I'm saying even not when we're on air. Like, I think humans are not meant to get this much feedback, positive or negative, from other people. Like, it's not normal what we're dealing with.
Social media is crazy. Yeah,
it's just like this vortex that we're in. So you have to find a way to balance it with whatever is good for your mental health. But to me, if you're gonna talk shit, you deserve whatever smoke you get. And
I like it.
And you would never say it to my face, so I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt. But also, I think for me, I know people ask me like, why do you bother? Because it probably validates them or whatever. There are a lot of women who tell me all the time, like, I love that you do that because I can't do that. Like, my job would get mad at me, or my boss doesn't want me on the internet talking like that, or I wouldn't even know what to say, but I still get it. So I appreciate that you do that. So, I'm just out here, just warrior princess in it for those two.
Yeah, I love to see it. I saw somebody on my timeline today getting lit up from about 5-6 different women in the space on Twitter. I don't know what that was about. I didn't even do
I saw that too.
But I said, sheesh.
I saw that too.
It's just bad.
That's a different story. We talk about that off air.
Man. But moving on, it's something we got in common. AB gets on me a lot about this. At least it looks like that. All my teams that I root for. So in the NFL. I got my Dolphins. That's home team.
Right.
I got my Colts. I rock with the Colts, and then Chargers. Justin Herbert has won me over. I'm a full blown Chargers. So I got 3 teams. I know at least for you got 2.
Yeah.
I need you to lay out the teams who you squad. So I'm not here by myself looking like I'm because AB try to call me like I'm a bandwagoner, but I got good reasons why I root for these teams.
Well, I will say I think what you do is actually the new wave. And I noticed this with my nephew, like, I want to say like maybe it might have been like 8 years ago or something. I asked him who his favorite basketball player was. And I'm thinking he's going to say somebody on the Heat. And he was like, Russell Westbrook. And I was like, how is he your favorite basketball player? Like, you live in Miami. How is it not a Heat player? And he was like, I don't know. I just watch all his games, and I like Russell Westbrook. And it just made me think. I'm like, damn, that's the new wave, actually, because you can see everybody's games. You didn't, when we grew up, you had to watch what game was on TV. You watched your local team. Well, now you have access to watch all these games all the time, no matter where you are in the world, NFL, baseball, and basketball. So if you're a kid growing up, you're more of a fan of players now than you are.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially basketball.
Right.
Yeah. But
so,
it
moves around so much too.
Yeah, it's just hard for me though, just to like on Sunday you rooting for 3 teams. Like that's tough. That's tough, man.
Like George said,
so you're Colts, Chargers, and Dolphins?
Dolphins, yeah.
All in the same
I was a Dolphin fan. I was a Dolphins fan my entire life. Dolphins, Panthers, Marlins, Heat, you name it. You down here, like I'm a fan of like that. Even when I was in the league, I kind of secretly rooted for the Dolphins too. I wanted to see them do good. My whole family is damn the Dolphins fans, so I want to see them do good. Colts,
I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I'm a Steelers fan. I'm always root for the Steelers, but I also love Dan Marino, so I always kind of liked the Dolphins. And then obviously Jason went there in '97, so
And how long did Jason play down here?
He was there 13 years. He played 15, but he was with the Dolphins for 12 maybe before he went to Washington, and then came back to the Dolphins, and then he went to the Jets for a year and then finished his career with the Dolphins. So he played 15 years, but 13 in Miami.
Okay.
But then obviously I was down
Steelers, Dolphins.
That's it.
So that's 2. That's it.
That's 2.
Yeah, and I'm mad at the Dolphins right now. So we're legally.
Whoa! Where are you at right now with Tua? Because AB asked me this a lot too. Because I've been back and forth with Tua. I'm not gonna lie. When we drafted him, I was excited
for Tua.
I was excited. You had to be, because as a Dolphin fan, like you heard who she said. What quarterback did she say? Dan Marino. You know when Dan Marino retired. So it's been a long time that we've been looking for somebody at that position. So we go and get a guy top 5. I was excited, but wasn't excited about him being left-handed, a little smaller, a little banged up. But hey, he's a Dolphin. I'm on board.
You can ride.
And then then we had the chance to get Deshaun Watson. We had the chance to get Justin Fields. I kind of jumped off that table. And then when you see Herbert doing what he's doing in LA, it's like, what the hell were y'all doing? I can miss this. I can miss Herbert, but not the people that's getting paid to evaluate and go out and interview these guys. So I'm pissed off with you, Joy, but I'm still optimistic. We making some moves out here.
It ain't just Tua.
I mean, there's guys blocking for him.
Thing had me sick.
Terrible. We got Ross offering money for loss. We got all type of shit going on.
Allegedly. But no, listen, I was with you. I was excited about Tua when they drafted him. I was like, I'm gonna buy in, and I had my reservations about Tua because I feel like if you have multiple injuries in college, that's a bit of a red flag for me, especially if you're a smaller guy. So I didn't really love, especially the type of injury that Tua had. I didn't really love his injury history coming in. I really liked Herbert, especially after the Rose Bowl game, but they're going to go with Tua, so I'll buy in. Mm-hmm. But I never liked how the Dolphins handled the start of Tua's career, because I don't like when you take a quarterback top 10 if you don't start them right away. I hate it for so many reasons. One, I think it completely stunts their development. 2, you're losing time to evaluate if they're really the guy. And if they are the guy, you're losing time where you could bring in more expensive free agents and veterans to build around him, so that you can make a Super Bowl run. Because as I mentioned earlier, the way to win a Super Bowl is when your quarterback does not have a huge cap hit. Well,
that's how the Chargers go in it this year.
But I'm saying, like, that's why I like the moves that they've made in this free agency period, because they're building around their young quarterback, as they should. So I never felt like the Dolphins did that. One, they didn't turn it over to him. They had Fitzpatrick out there, which, look, everybody loves Ryan, but he ain't a starting quarterback. He's not a franchise. He is not a starting quarterback. He is a backup.
Don't tell AB that. He thought that was the right choice.
I thought that was the right choice at that moment. When they brought Tua in, I felt as though if they would have let Fitzpatrick ride that season out, y'all would have been in the offs. If you do that,
you got to stick with them and let Tua just not play that year. But you can't be flip-flopping back and forth. And then you put Tua out there, and then he struggles. You take him out. Like, what are we doing? Either he plays or he doesn't. And then to do all that, you don't even make the playoffs. Like, what's the point? What was the point? What was the reason? You just wasted time in development. So it's not even that I don't know that Tua is the future of the Dolphins. I don't know. But I've never actually been able to evaluate whether he is or not. I've never seen anything that has convinced me that he is, because y'all are taking him out of the games. It's not even what my opinion is. You're showing how much trust you have in him by taking him out, by not starting him year one. Then he gets injured. Now you're talking about Deshaun Watson for half the year. Like, you never even committed to Tua. Why should I commit to Tua? Y'all didn't commit to Tua.
This year 3 for Tua, right?
Yes.
Yep. This year 3. You got to, we got to get him an offensive line, and then you got Waddle. Who did we just sign? We just signed another receiver, I think.
Cedric.
Yeah, Cedric Wilson from Dallas. So get him some more weapons, get him some protection, and then you can really evaluate him. And we're not as patient with guys as we used to be. We just talked about Burrows in the Super Bowl last year.
This is the year for Tua. If he don't do it this year,
but this is the year. And now I don't think that's fair, because I think they should have committed to him for his first 2 years and let him play. But this year they're going to let him play, as they should, and then we'll see what he is. I don't know that he's the guy. We'll see. I just think that the Dolphins are a dysfunctional organization. They have shown time and time again the inability to make the right choice. They fired their coach after back-to-back winning seasons. Like, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? You see how stressful this is to be a Dolphin, AB?
Y'all ride with them, though. So I respect y'all for that.
We got to.
Y'all ride with them.
We got to.
Talk about your other team. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's Miss Trubisky.
I know you probably stressed out about this too. You bring in a quarterback. Do you think this quarterback can get it done for y'all this year?
So I'm actually much higher on Mitch Trubisky than everybody else is. I think the Steelers
I'm everybody else.
Huh?
I said I'm everybody else.
You're not high. Well, let me qualify it. I did not want them to go into the season with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins as the quarterbacks. Yeah. So Mitch Trubisky is considerably better than Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, that's fair. I agreed.
Mitch suffered from ridiculous expectations in Chicago. He made the playoffs twice. He's 29-21 as a starter. He played in a Pro Bowl. It's not like he was out there just a disaster. Now, I don't think that Mitch's ceiling is very high. I think he's a bridge quarterback. He's not a franchise guy. He's not somebody who's going to win you multiple playoff games and get you to a Super Bowl. There's no illusions of grandeur here for me and Mitch Trubisky. But I do think he's considerably better than Mason Rudolph, who's a backup quarterback, and Dwayne Haskins, who we have no idea what he is.
So he better than what we got in Indy right now. I tell you that much. So
I don't think that the Steelers are in a position to win a Super Bowl, but Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. And where I think the Steelers made a mistake, and I've been saying this since it happened, Ben got injured and they had to play the season with Mason Rudolph and Zach Hodges. And it was a respectable season for those two being the quarterback, right? Still a winning season. But that was your opportunity. Ben Roethlisberger getting injured should have showed you, okay, it's time to start planning for the future. Maybe we move up in the draft and take one of these quarterbacks. Maybe we make a play for a new franchise guy. But they were loyal for no reason, because Ben was nearing the end of his career. It's time.
We all saw it.
They were loyal to not bringing anybody else in under him. And now you're in a situation where you don't have a guy. So if Steelers fans are mad about Mitch Trubisky, they should be mad at the front office for doing that with Ben. We knew it was the end. We watched it. It was right there in front of us, and they chose to do nothing. So what I think the Steelers are doing, or what I hope they're doing, is you got Mitch Trubisky. You stay competitive in a very tough division. You have a solid defense. You have a Hall of Fame coach. You've got weapons. Just go out there, win some games. Don't get crazy with your expectations. And next year, in a much stronger quarterback draft, use some picks and move up in the draft and take a quarterback, make a play, be aggressive, and get your franchise guy. This year's quarterback draft is light. Malik Willis had a nice combine. Kenny Pickett has a lot of questions. So there's no point in reaching for a quarterback like that in this draft if you don't feel confident about them. So I'm not freaking out about Mitch Trubisky, but I also think the expectations should be reasonable.
Yeah, they should. And who knows in this league with these quarterbacks? Who knows what quarterbacks won't be happy halfway through this year and may be available for the Steelers going forward, or for a lot of teams out there, my Colts included. But before we let you get up out of here, tell us a little more about the Joy Taylor Foundation.
So you didn't like Wentz moving on, huh?
No, I didn't. I didn't think he was a great, not a Wentz fan. Too erratic with the ball. Wasn't a great quarterback. But when you look at the landscape, at that point, Aaron Rodgers had already re-signed. Russ had been traded. If you want to get one of those two guys,
you want Jimmy G though.
Jimmy G would be the third option, but I mean, I think it's a marginal increase right there. But you trading them to the Commanders, you don't even get Heineke back. At least if you get Heineke back, I feel better about it. Carson and Heineke may be a toss-up, honestly, to me. But you get nobody right now. We got Sam Ellinger. We got up out of here. Be right back. We got Sam Ellinger. We're not marching Sam Ellinger out there. So yeah. I wasn't cool with just moving on from him at this point. I think that was more so. This is me. I think it was more so about him not getting vaccinated. And, because late in the season, D. Leonard had to miss a game. Carson had to miss a game. And Irsay wasn't happy about that. He made no bones about it. So that's where the leadership you kept hearing about. But I just wouldn't have moved on right now without a plan. Like we just talked about the draft this year. It's not a bunch of guys who just jump off the board this year in the draft. We don't have a first-round pick, even if it was. So, no, I wasn't happy with that move, man. I feel like we're wasting. This is 6th year in a row. We talked about the Dolphins. This year, number 6, where the Colts are going to be starting a different quarterback. Like you don't win that way. So no, I wasn't happy with the Colts moving on from Wentz. Not a huge Wentz fan, but I'm not a Sam Ellinger fan either. So if we get Jimmy G though, I feel much better with porn star Jimmy in the building. Much better.
No, I like Jimmy G too. I'm higher on Jimmy G than most people, but yeah,
you're a winner. You gotta be. You said quarterback wins. I don't care what you feel about Jimmy.
He's a winner. Okay. He's gonna insist on the other team having an opportunity to win the game at some point. He's gonna insist on that, but he finds ways to win. Like he's super confident.
You can say the same thing about the Super Bowl champ right now, Matt Stafford. He gonna insist on that, giving that other team an opportunity or 3. But you gotta build around it. I feel like the coach could have tried to do that.
Yeah, I gotta give it to Matty though. Matt got it done.
Yeah, watch how you talk about Matt.
Hey, Raheem Morris and that defense got it done. But that's another Super Bowl champ. Super Bowl champ. Shout out to Matt, man.
He's the guy right now.
Facts.
Yeah, so the foundation, I've done a lot of work in the nonprofit space over the years. My brother's had a foundation in South Florida for youth in South Florida for a long time. And I'm a domestic violence survivor, so I've done a lot of work with different domestic violence groups over the years. And I've been working with an organization out here in Los Angeles called Beauty to the Streets that does outreach for the homeless here in Skid Row, which, the homeless community is, center of conversation in a lot of major cities, but obviously Los Angeles is a very big deal. It's a severe issue here. So I wanted to try and find a footprint or just a facility to kind of bring everything together that I was doing in that space, and also be able to sort of streamline for people who I'm working with and how they can help support. So that's why I made the foundation. So we work with groups that work with domestic violence survivors and awareness, homeless outreach, and youth empowerment. And over the Super Bowl, was able to put together flag football camp for girls out here in South Central, which was a pretty amazing event. We did the weekend before Super Bowl, had about 200 girls out with Dr. Jen Welter, who's the first female coach in the NFL, and she does camps all over the country. And I still work with URI NYC, which is the biggest domestic violence and homeless shelter in the country, and Beauty to the Streets, as I mentioned, and also have a scholarship program through the foundation as well. So, it's just important to me to give back. We all, talk a lot of stuff all over the place about, want to make things better. And, I think we all have the opportunity to, and it's important to me to not leave the world the same way I came in. However, I can do that. And I'm blessed to have a big platform. Yep. And I try to use that to help amplify others. And that's really what it's for mostly. We don't have programs that we run through the foundation or, a facility or, all of that. It's more a platform to lift up those other organizations and amplify what they're doing. And when we do collaborations to, do it through the foundation. So we're growing some stuff. We'll have some more events coming up throughout the year. They'll definitely let you guys know about, but yeah, that's what the foundation is.
Nah, definitely, that's dope. I know we both big on the philanthropy and give back to the community. So commend you for what you're doing. And I know a lot of people looking up to you. Like you say, you do have that platform and what you're doing with it. I commend you for it.
Thank you.
Same here. I know a lot of people appreciate that. We definitely appreciate it as well. And I appreciate your time jumping on here. I know you got a long work days every day, but I appreciate you jumping on here with the Man-to-Man pod. I'm sure the listeners are really going to enjoy this one. We definitely enjoy, the insight kind of story. Everybody sees you on TV or on Twitter or wherever you are, radio. But a lot of people don't know the story behind, that journey. Every individual has their own unique story. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today. Definitely got to have you back on.
Thank you for having me on. You come on my radio show all the time.
Yep.
And I appreciate it. I gotta have AB on.
Got to.
Yeah. Let me know.
Come on. And I would say I'm not as mean as I seem on Twitter, but I don't know if that
Hey, she with the shits.
With the shit. I love it.
Spurred and she had to come down there in Miami. I know if you had to bartend in South Beach, you gotta be with the shits. Ain't no telling what you go see on a nightly basis. But
before you go, you went to high school in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I went to Woodland Hills.
Factory. That's a factory.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I asked them some guys I played with that was from out that area. The Quip.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Reeves from, right?
Yeah.
Beaver
Falls. Aaron Donald went to Penn Hills, which is right next to Woodland Hills. That's like our rival school. But yeah, Western Pennsylvania is a big sports area. Lots of athletes come there, but obviously Woodland Hills has had a lot of guys. Gronk, Steve Preston,
yep. Miles Sanders,
Jason, yep. Miles Sanders. There's a long list of guys that come out of there, but it's
okay.
I know that trophy area and the banners probably look crazy out Woodland Hills.
Wolverina, some action down there.
Yeah,
that's what's up, man. We appreciate you, Joy.
Thank you, guys.
Back. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And there you have it, another episode of the Man-to-Man Pod. We appreciate Joy Taylor stopping by and chopping it up with us. I'm one half of the Man-to-Man Pod, AB. Got my co-host D Butt.
Yes, sir.
So y'all make sure y'all tap in, tell a friend, subscribe, like everywhere, and wherever you listen to your podcast, y'all check us out. We out.
Yeah. All that good stuff.